Good morning, welcome, and thank you so much for all coming. We're here to honor Jack's memory. I invite you to share a short story or a memory of Jack. And anyone else that I don't ask to come up is more than welcome to come up and share a memory. Bob?
My name is Bob McGuss, and it's an honor for me to be here. I'd like to thank Judy, of course, Judy Levine, for inviting us to take a moment to say a few words about our dear friend, Jack Winberg. My first introduction to Jack was a brief moment at Ringling College. And although we hadn't been formally introduced, I waved to Jack, and he waved back from across the campus in a very warm manner. And that was the start of our combination together, ventures together. However, at our next encounter, things went downhill a bit. While we were visiting Jack and Judy at their home, Jack asked, "How you doing?" to me. And I said that I was doing okay, except that I had a problem with my stomach ailment that was causing some problems. And naturally, I talked to Jack, and him being a medical man, I asked him, what he might evaluate or give us an idea of what this might entail. Jack was having really none of that suggestion. He had indicated to me that I should see a doctor directly. And I subsequently took his advice and saw my own doctor. And as it turned out, it was very good advice because I was subsequently diagnosed with early stage lymphoma. And I wanted to say thanks to Jack's suggestion. After 5 years of treatment, I was fully successful and have not had any cancer problems since that time. So again, it's another chance for me to thank my friend Jack for that understanding and suggestion of how I might work with the problem I had. Over the many years following, our relationship with Jack and Judy continued to grow and blossom. One very important highlight was with Jack and Judy, and Jack and Judy wonderfully hosted our wedding reception. I have to tell you, it was super special from top to bottom. Jack and Judy really know how to throw a party. Thanks for the pause, I appreciate that. I have many fond memories of our dinners together with Jack and Judy and the wonderful photo exhibits that we attended with them, not to mention Jack's cello playing, which was near and dear to his heart and to our own as well. I'd like to not take too long here this morning. I know we're limited.
Yeah, wrap it
up. I would like to close by saying that Jack is still very much alive in our thoughts and with us in our hearts every day. We love you, Jack, and always will. Thank you.
I just want to say that Jack and Judy were one of the very first people we met here in Sarasota. If anything at all, I couldn't have asked for a nicer, warmer couple to have met. I didn't know that Jack was in the military, though. That's new to me today, but it doesn't surprise me that such a warm and generous man would also be of service to this country. A true testament to who I aspire to. Judy, Jack, shalom.
I'm Beverly Kearns. I first met Jack 23 plus years ago when he was a student of mine, and then we ended up teaching together. If we were chatting in the living room and had all morning to reminisce, the memories would overflow. There are so many, and what one would say would trigger several more memories from someone else. There would be a lot of, do you remember, and were you there when? Jack was infinitely curious. He loved to learn and enthusiastically and generously shared the joy of discovery, his talents, skills, time, energy, and material resources. Even in the last few months before he became ill, he accomplished more than most people do in a decade. It's difficult to choose one memory or narrow down years of friendship to 2 minutes, and that may be the most significant memory of all. Jack had vast and varied interests and areas of expertise. Often in the last several weeks, I've thought, I'll show him this, I'll send him that. He'd enjoy this article, that would amuse him. This question would prompt an interesting discussion. And then I suddenly stop short and remember things have changed. And there's another wave of sadness, grief, and loss. There's also joy and delight and gratitude for having the opportunity to know Jack and experience his friendship for more than 20 years. Through the years with Jack, we've all had adventures, discoveries, conversations, laughter, and sometimes tears. He stood by us when we went through difficult times, and he cheered our triumphs and celebrated our joys. He was a good and faithful friend, and the memories are gifts to treasure. So Jack, rest in peace, dear friend. You fully lived every moment of the life you were given. Your presence in this world and in our lives made a difference. You are missed, you are celebrated, you are loved. Thank you.
Jack and I have known each other for probably over 30 years. Not probably, well over 30 years. And we started out with the radio club. That's where I first met him. And Jack was, for those of you who don't know, he was an adamant CW operator. He did code, and he loved this stuff. He was just great at it. Most people struggle with it, and of course Jack didn't struggle at all. He did great, and he just lit up the airwaves with it, and he enjoyed all that stuff. But time went on, and the radio club people got me to do speaking engagements for a while. And there was one particular one where Jack just never let me live down. So I have to tell you the story. And that is, some of you may have heard of it. I guess I got a little technical, and Jack was sitting in the back with another friend and saying how he and the friend were just laughing because he knew that everybody in the room had no idea what I was talking about. And he's reminded me of this story many times. So, you know, it kind of is humbling. Now, Jack is, he's the kind of person that he's good at everything. He just, photography, the cello, he probably could have played any musical instrument he wanted to. As you well know, Dr. Bev reminded me that he could have had his choice of going into neurology, or he could have gone into psychiatry. And he went into psychiatry because not only was he an extremely intelligent person, I mean, he forgot most of us don't even know how much he forgot. We don't even have that. But he went into psychology because it was more humanitarian, and we can appreciate that because that's who he was. Wednesday night dinners, we went to dinner almost every Wednesday night for almost all of the 30 years. The one of the first dinners was actually in Paris, and we ran into each other in the Sarasota airport both of us were on the way. He was going to London first. And several weeks later, we all had dinner. It was a group of people. And that was our first dinner out was in this wonderful restaurant in Paris. And after that, a little time went by. I ran into him again at a ham fest, a amateur radio gathering thing. And we just were talking about things and so forth. And from about then on, we went to dinner just about every week. And we referred to it as saving the world. We talked about everything that came to mind. I learned a bit about psychology and doctoring. I learned a lot. He learned a little bit about what I do, which is electrical engineering and more radio stuff. And that's the whole thing. I could talk to him about anything. Anybody could, because he got it all. But his greatest asset was that he was just, it was just so important to him to take care of other people. And he did that just in the way he treated everyone. He reached out all the time, constantly, to help everyone. So, let me see if I've forgotten anything here. Sometimes I do want to say that sometimes I think in the dinners that we had that he was sometimes living vicariously through the stories that I'd tell him, and perhaps he did that with a lot of people. But he also had a very full life, and he just, like I said, he could have done anything, and he did do most of it. we already know. So he's a fantastic person, a true friend. My dad once said, he said to me, just off to the side, he says, he met Jack, and he said, "You've got a really good friend there." So, thank you.
Met my old cello pal and friend Jack some 10 plus years ago. I joined his quartet with Dave Preeves, Dick Adams, violins, and Dan, the violist, to play Brahms and Mozart quintets. I was immediately taken by Jack's fine playing, his upbeat spirit and sense of humor. Over the years, we had many good music experiences together, playing quartets, piano quartets, a concert at the Gulfport Library, my visit to his class at New College, and more. Despite his increasing hearing difficulties, Jack never lost his love and passion for making music. I miss my old friend immensely. Musical connections and serendipity often bring the best surprises. At the suggestion of a mutual friend, Jack made a stop at our home in Hartford on one of his escape hurricane season and make music trips, probably 25 years ago. He brought his cello, his camera, Hermione, his GPS, and his absolute delight and enthusiasm. We forged a friendship that lasted through intervening years apart and reconnected when Herb and I moved to Sarasota in 2018. Since then, we've made music together, often with Daniel Goralnik, many, many times. Jack brought much to life. If I had to pick one word to describe him, it would be positive. He was a gentleman, kind, thoughtful, and sharing. He was sometimes forgetful, and he had a terrible sense of direction. He had a million interesting stories. He loved deeply and well Judy, his friends, music, art, photography, science, food. In recent years, his acceptance of increasing hearing difficulties and his refusal to let it hamper his enjoyment of music making was inspiring. For all of us who had the pleasure of making music with Jack, he will be present whenever we play the music he loved. We'll miss you.
Well, I will tell you that I think Jack would like the weather today. It's not Sarasota style. And we met him, actually I met Judy first, and then eventually we met Jack, took his photography classes, had lifelong learning, and we became friends because it's easy to be friends with Judy and Jack, as we all know. Seeing them anytime was always a fun and uplifting experience, and as everyone has said, you know, Jack always was a great listener and very upbeat about everything and anything he did. I do remember this. The a lot of this.
Yes.
Right? That's the gesture I think of. David said last time we were talking about it, he said what he remembers is the cherub smile of Jack. And I think Jack, in his unique and interesting way, has left a part of him with all of us. So may we all cherish his memories as we go forward in our own lives.
My Nana asked me to read a message from their friend Merle. Cousin. When I think of Jack, what comes to my mind is his warmth, caring, keen intelligence, and empathy. When he took an interest in anything, he learned all there was to know, or at least he tried to do so. Music, computers, ham radio, photography, art books stretching for strings, building violins from plastic. He would throw himself into it, learn and gain expertise. He was good at most things he attempted. Science brought order into Jack's life, but music filled his soul. All his life, Jack loved to travel. Once he and Judy were a couple, his life dream of traveling was once again fulfilled. In fact, in all my life, I'd never seen Jack so very content and at peace than when he was sharing his life with Judy. Jack loved Judy deeply, respected her skills, her talents, and actually learned to listen to some boundaries. Judy brought travel, excitement, new adventures, and love into Jack's life. He often said she made his life a very good one. She was the love of his life. Personally, Jack was always there for me through parental loss, negotiating with medical professions, and life events. He always had my back, and he would listen to me kvetch. We shared family history and drama. I think that he has made a great impact on many people. I will miss him greatly, and I think about him daily. My rabbi once said, once one lives, they are always remembered. I will remember you always, Jack, and with deep love.
So, we've all heard about how wonderful Jack is culturally with photography and music, and we all learned something from him. But a couple things in light of all that, which was the thing I'm going to miss most is his hugs. And if you've ever gotten a hug from Jack, you know when he embraced you and he wouldn't let go. And he'd give you that extra double pat on the back too. And when he held your hand, he'd give you that squeeze. He meant a lot to me. I would talk to my mom and she would get off the phone and tell Jack what was going on and Jack would call me back. You want to talk? And he would philosophize with me. Try to rationalize things that I couldn't see through, but he's always been very dear to me. And a solid person. Lots and lots of laughs. I was privileged enough to travel with my mom and Jack the last 2 years. And he gave me a camera, showed me how to hold it, practice, changing lenses. You're doing it wrong. But he had patience. And he worked with me, what there is to work with. But I love him dearly and I'll miss him dearly. And a little nickname I used to call him because he loved food, and everyone knows that, is Jackie McSnackin'. So McSnackin', I hope you have lots of snacks up there, and I love you and rest in peace. Yeah.
I think the thing that I'll miss, one of the things I'll miss the most is when he used to say, "Step into my office." And I would sit down next to him and give him the whole deal of the day. And then he, as Julie said, would see things in a different light and put things in perspective for me. He will be deeply missed. And I'm going to read a very short poem so that he is sent off in peace. It's by Lucille Clifton and it's called Blessing the Boat. May the tide that is entering even now, the lip of our understanding carry you out. Beyond the face of fear, may the kiss, the wind, then turn from it, certain that it will love you back. May you open your eyes to water, water waving forever, and may you, in your innocence, sail through this to that. And I thank you.
We're good. That does conclude the service here this morning for Jack. On behalf of Judy and her family, thank you all for coming out with us.
Sorry.
Because there is
COVID caution.
COVID caution, we will have shivers at a later date. And because it's difficult to come back in the crowds. But we love you, we appreciate your coming. And I think the cold is in his honor. So I thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.